There is a Santa Claus. It is a physiological fact, and it does secrete the most holy and wonderful gift or substance in the body of every individual. Those who understand it, who receive it in the right spirit, have become as little as children. As above, so below. As in the macrocosm, the universe, so in the microcosm, man. Can anyone think for one moment that the parables, fables, allegories, and myths that have come down to us through the ages have no basic foundation? They, as well as the fast days and feast days, are founded on great esoteric truths. Otherwise, they would have ceased to be. The great hierarchy that rules the universe sees to it that nothing is forgotten that needs to be remembered. Santa Claus, or Saint Claus, is derived from the same root word as Claustrum, from which cloister is also derived. Claustrum means a barrier, a covered place, seclusion. Cloister is referred to as a place of seclusion, and more especially as a place of seclusion for something holy, something dedicated to divinity. There is a Saint Claus, or Claustrum, within the cerebrum, and whoever gave it the name knew why they did so. The suture of the skull is the point where the bones meet. We can very easily see this place on the head of infants, as the sections are not then drawn closely together, and the vibrations of the brain can be both seen and felt. In Sanskrit, this is called the door of Brahman, for its aperture through which the ego or spirit leaves the body. It is also the chimney of Santa Claus. The vertebrae as a whole is called the stick of Brahman. Directly underneath the door of Brahman is a triangular shaped body named, in physiology, the Isle of Real. This is the place where John was when he looked back and saw the wonderful vision of the regenerated man in the Isle of Patmos. This island is the central lobe of the cerebrum and is also called the pole. Hence the Isle of Real is the north pole of the body and is, as we well know, the imperishable sacred land. In Santi's Anatomy of the Brain and Spinal Cord, we find this island is situated in the medial wall of the lateral fissure of the cerebrum between the frontal, parietal, and temporal lobes, whose growth after the 5th month in utero gradually covers it over. At the end of the first year of the extrauterine life, it is entirely concealed by temporal, parietal, and frontal parts of the operculum, cover or lid. Thus we see that Mother Nature has taken the great pains to conceal this sacred center. Underneath this island, and directly in line with the optic thalamus, lies the claustrum, but separated from it by yet 3 other bodies. The claustrum is the thin sheet of isolated gray matter found just medial of the Isle of Real. Santi says it is a sheet of peculiar gray substance and is made up of the fusiform, or spindle-shaped cell bodies. It is from this claustrum that contains yellow substance within its outer grayish exterior that the wonderful priceless oil is formed that flows down into the ovary fasciculus, descending with the rubospinal tract through the rectangular formation in the pons and medulla to the lateral column of the spinal cord. It terminates in the gray matter of the spinal cord, probably giving off collaterals to corresponding nuclei in the brainstem. This is the oil, the precious gift of which the Bible speaks. Thou anointest my head with oil. And not only is there oil manufactured within the special laboratory of the brain, but there is actually an olive tree which bears actual olives. The 2 olives are 2 infinitesimal eminences on either side of the medulla with the pyramid between. They are 1/2 inch in length. It is found well developed only in the higher mammals. They are relay stations between the cerebrum and the cerebellum, and between the spinal cord and the cerebellum. This oil is the most sacred substance in the body. It is the quintessence of gold, the gold of Ophir, most truly a rare gift. Globules of oil are found in the vital fluid, the semen, and when the prodigal son has wasted his substance, he finds that it takes a long time to replace the deficiency and make good the looted bank account. This wonderful oil is the secret work of the Immaculate Virgin, Mary, represented by the sign Virgo. In chemistry, we find the sulfate of potassium is the mineral salt, which, uniting with sulfur and oxygen, manufactures the oil. The story of the wise virgins who had their lamps trimmed and filled with oil is given to emphasize the necessity for the presence of the oil in the body, for they cannot go out to meet the bridegroom unless their lamps are burning. The lamp is the lamp thereof. The olives, which contain the oil, are the reservoirs, the relay stations, of course, which furnish the oil for the lamp, the pineal gland, at the top of which is the flame or eye. When the kundalini, the serpent fire that lies concealed within the sacral plexus, is awakened, burns up the dross within the spinal cord, and reaches the canarium. It sets fire to the oil and thus lights the perpetual lamp, which gives the light to the whole house. Santa Claus is thus the giver of the supreme gift in the human body, the oil for the perpetual lamp, the gold of Ophir, the quintessence of richness. A total lack of oil in the body will, in itself, cause death. Santa Claus brings his gifts when the Christ Mass is celebrated, and the word itself, Christ, means oil in Greek. The seed is the bread of life, and when anointed with oil, christened or crucified, becomes the Christ Mass, the bread eaten in the Father's kingdom. Thus, we now clearly understand the meaning of Santa Claus and his Christmas visit with gifts to the children. Central eye. And the lamp thereof is the Lamb. Revelations. The optic thalamus, the central eye in the center of the head, is called both lamp and lamb. The thalamus, or chamber, is a mass of gray matter at the base of the cerebrum, projecting into and bounding the third ventricle. The Hebrew letters Lamed, Aleph, Mem, and Beth mean in their own order overcoming, father, mother, and house, or some materialized form, while the letter P in lamp gives a different meaning. P, from the seventh letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Pe, means speech, or that which radiates or goes forth. In the tarot, it is referred to as the force which dispenses the essence of life, which gives it the means of perpetually renewing its creations after destruction. One may speak destructively and then, having seen the light, is able to speak constructively. Thus, we see how it also means rays of light, etc. Hence, lamp. The essence of life within us, the oil, is what feeds this lamp or causes it to give light. It is carried up to the place where the lamp or candle, which the Bible refers to, is the optic within the thalamus. If thine eye be single, thy whole body will be full of light. The outer eyes see only by reflection. The vibrations from the inner eye, optic, is conveyed along with the optic nerves and produced spectacular on the ether. Thus, we frequently, when trying to comprehend something, put our hand over our eyes for a moment and then exclaim, "Oh, yes, now I see." The seed is also referred to as the lamb, as it is necessary for the seed to be carried up into this part of the anatomy in order that it may cause the optic to vibrate rapidly and thus produce the illumination. We shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye. The sacral region of man's body, near the base of the spinal column, is a gland larger than a hen's egg, of spongy character, and into which is secreted, from the blood, a small amount of oil, at the same time that the blood throws out refuse into the bladder. Exceedingly little has been known to physiologists about this gland, or about the purpose of the secretion, except that in elderly men it often becomes the seat of a disease called prostatitis, and that in young men of dissolute habits, the secretion becomes filthy. The oil is subject to very varied degrees of consistency, from very thin, volatile oil that promptly evaporates when exposed to the air, to one having a good body, a truly fixed oil that will form a permanent stain upon a piece of paper. In the most healthy, wise, and vigorous men, it is a fixed oil. In the average kind of man, to be met on the street, it is more or less volatile. It is very malodorous and may contain pus. For its highest and purest condition, when it is a fixed oil, colorless, odorless, and tasteless or sweet, not really acid, not really alkaline, we shall use the Greek term chrism, or for short, by the root letters of the noun for oil and the verb to oil, kri, in Greek xpi. It is a necessity of nature that the oil, when purified or secreted in the gland, shall usually make its way out again through the capillaries into the blood, and so pass all over the body, wherever the blood goes. It is, then, one of the constitutes of the blood of Christ. Every cigarette smoker gets a certain relief from smoking, because the poisonous and narcotic effect of the tobacco deadens the voice of nature. It has been proven that when this gland and its oil act properly, there is not only no desire for tobacco, but tobacco is then too repulsive to be tolerated for a moment. The body is a lamp. This oil is its illuminating substance. Without it, there is no consciousness. When it is completely exhausted, consciousness ceases and disintegration takes place. This oil is not only easily affected, but the effects are carried through the blood into the structure of the tissues, of the brain, and other parts. In all ages of the world, a small and select few have known how to multiply this life essence. Of enormous importance is another fact regarding this oil. It is extremely affected by mental states and by the states of consciousness. The oily milk of a nursing mother may be poisoned by a sudden fit of anger, so as to make her nursing babe sick. This is an effect of mind upon matter. A ferocious appetite can be destroyed instantly by the reading of a telegram announcing the death of one's mother. The physiological results of having plenty of good oil thus circulated constantly in the body we have demonstrated to be: first, destruction of all semblance of nervousness, irritability, greed, fear, and unrest. Second, the perfection of digestion and assimilation. Third, restoration of impaired eyesight and hearing, prevention of decay in the teeth. Fourth, full amount of the most enjoyable and restful sleep, freedom from the use of all drugs. Much less food is desired or needed. There is no demand for stimulants. Fifth, neutralization of blood poisoning, probable destruction of cancerous and all other blood diseases. Sixth, prompt and complete prevention of all kinds of self-abuse, restoration from the effects of earlier indiscretions. Seventh, immunity from colds and probably all kinds of infectious diseases. Eighth, restoration of youthful vigor and prevention of all fragilities of old age. Ninth, in short, accomplishment of everything that unlimited vitality should be expected to produce.